Hello, my name is Bogdan Nahailo, Chief Editor of Kyiv Post, and once again we have an interesting guest for you here in our studio. This is a Brit, as I would call him, because I'm from Britain myself, who has been delivering a very special type of help, aid to Ukraine. And this is Adrian Simpson. Welcome, Adrian.
Thank you very much.
And I'll let you explain a little bit about
Sure.
what you actually bring, but first a bit about yourself. As I understand it, you're former military.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
I was actually former military way back in the 80s in the parachute regiment, which actually has become a bit of a family regiment, as my nephew is now in the paras and my son is just joining. And then after that, I went on to have my own risk management company, which works extensively across Africa and actually into Russia, where we employed and work with a lot of ex-military, looking after the multinationals, doing everything from the due diligence through to securing their goods on the ground.
This was a long time ago. This is not now.
No, this is not now. No. I don't think I'll be quite so welcome back in Russia at the moment. Yeah.
So what is it that you're actually bringing? And this is humanitarian aid or something very specific?
It is humanitarian aid, but quite specific because at Mission Ukraine, our Ukrainian directors who set up Mission Ukraine identified that there was a problem on the front line of getting the seriously wounded casualties treated within the golden hour. You've got 1 hour to get them to a proper hospital. And
this is bleeding usually?
Yes, it can be bleeding, it can be all sorts of trauma, it can be chest wounds, it can be respiratory, it can be bleeding, it can be lost limbs. You have to treat those within 2 minutes with tourniquets and chest seals. But then what was happening traditionally was taking too long to get the casualty to a field hospital. So on the Ukrainian front, a whole series, which each brigade and battalion set up themselves, are stability stations less than 10 Ks from the front, frequently 4 to 5 Ks. And our vehicles are rugged four-wheel drives that we bring out from the UK, buy second hand, and then we convert them in Mykolaiv, where all the seats come out, we have the aluminium interior, and we have a stretcher in the back, and it's designed to get that one casualty in quickly and get them to a stability station, preferably within 10-15 minutes. So along the front, the four-wheel drives scurrying around, picking people up, getting them there, and then in the stability station, they're stabilised and then taken to the field hospital.
Now, your colleagues who are helping you in Britain, they're also former military or just your run-of-the-mill citizens?
It's an absolute mix. The Ukrainian management, and this is the brilliant thing about working with Mission Ukraine, is fantastic contacts all the way through to the military, because one of our points we're very proud of, we don't deliver to Lviv or Kyiv or even to the battalion headquarters. We take the vehicles direct to the medics, pretty as near to the front line as is sensible, and we hand the keys over to the medics. And that in itself is very, very rewarding, and it can be very humbling as well.
But I understand that you do occasionally bring things that are more necessary for military purposes, rafts, boats, I understand.
Yes, because of the bridgeheads on the left side of the Dnipro, we always call it the east side, but because we don't know which way it flows, but the military do. The left side of the Dnipro, we've been supporting some of the brigades over there. And we brought out something like 20 boats, rigid inflatable boats, and other ones called SIBs, which don't have a rigid hull. And they're absolutely vital. Those guys going across the Dnipro, there's no cover. The Russians are there on the other side. The Russians have the drones, they have the artillery set up. And to get across is tough enough. To come back with casualties, where you're going at full speed with a casualty who's maybe in not condition, is very tough. So we brought down about 20 boats so far and struck up a big relationship with the brigades on the other side.
Now, how are you received? Let's say, on the one hand by the military, on the other by civilians in that area?
We are just amazed and humbled. When we deliver the boats to the military, they never stop thanking us. They frequently have flags signed. They They meet us, and it can be anywhere from their stability station to outside the railway station in Kramatorsk, or even down towards Kherson. And they make such an effort, and they're so welcoming and so warm. And as they say thank you, it's almost embarrassing for us, because really, we should be thanking them. And we always say that. They say thank you, and whether it's through Google Translate or with a translator, we always say, no, we should be thanking you.
Okay, Adrian, well, let's jump back a bit. How did you get involved? A Brit in Ukraine being so committed?
It was obviously massively aware of the Ukraine war going on, but it was about a year ago I read an article in the UK newspaper Daily Telegraph, which is very good on reporting on the military, saying there was a shortage of tourniquets on the front line. A lot of cheap Chinese tourniquets, which weren't the NATO standard, had been bought for £4 or £5, and a good tourniquet costs about £26, and it's a NATO Cat 7 one, which actually works. So I got as a former soldier, I got very angry that the soldiers may not be having equipment to keep themselves or their friends alive. So I started buying up with support locally, IFAKs, which are individual first aid kits, and then I was put through a chain of contacts. There's a massive organisation back in the UK of volunteers all talking to each other with Mission Ukraine, and understood what they were doing. So I sat down with my boys. I've got 3 boys, and we were going to go on a big holiday to Tanzania, camping holiday in the bush, great family holiday. And I sat down with them and said, look, we've got a choice. We either do that or we use the money to buy a 4-wheel drive and go to the Ukraine.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, well, I say there was a vote. I'm not sure there was.
So you've been coming with your sons
Yes.
to the front lines?
Yes. In September, my younger son, Luke, who's 22, and Ben, 24, and we went all the way up to northeast of Kyiv, right up to the border and through the border. And then Luke stayed out to work for another charity, handing out pizza and hope and love. And then he came back with me in January, and we delivered, we seem to be the Mission Ukraine Go North experts to the northeast of Kyiv. And I think it's very good for the younger generation to see what we're talking about. And Luke put it very well on BBC Radio, in fact, when jokingly almost the presenter said, Dad, how do you feel about taking your son into potential danger? And before I answered, Luke said he feels there's so many people his age fighting, he feels he has to share some of the danger with them.
Amazing. And your average British neighbour, do they support what you're doing? Do they understand? Do they empathize? Or is this something very far away, remote?
I think one of the hardest things that we have is getting the message across that you can do a 3-hour flight from London, get into Moldova, and 4 to 5 hours drive, and you're in Odessa and effectively on the front. Or drive out from the UK. You could drive out 2 days flat out and be arriving in Lviv to air raid sirens. And I think a lot of people in the UK, unfortunately, are putting their heads in the sand. I think the situation in Gaza has almost allowed people to mentally block off problems, saying it's all terrible, therefore we can't do anything. And one of the things that we really do, as well as the vehicles and the boats and trauma kits, is we give presentations. We try to get the message over to people that this war is a European war. It's our war as well, and we have to step up to the plate.
Well, Britain's been very strongly supporting Ukraine
Yes.
from the outset,
Yeah.
hasn't it? It's set
Yeah.
an example for others.
Yes.
Both the government and the military, and the training that's
Yes.
been going on,
Yeah.
and the visits here, the
Yes.
regular visits
Yeah.
by politicians. So
Yes.
Britain
Yeah.
has nothing to feel ashamed about. They are setting an example.
It's very true. But I think Europe really, everyone keeps discussing the Trump situation and the 60 billion which is being held up in Congress from America. I think Europe has got to stop thinking about that and say, it's Europe, this is our job to step up and not be looking over our shoulders worrying about someone else. And I think it's happening, you know.
Okay, now tell us again about Mission Ukraine. Now, I didn't quite catch.
Yeah.
Are they a Ukrainian formed organization, or have they been formed in Britain?
they were formed in Britain by Ukrainians. So most of the management, Dmitry, Alex, are London-based, and with Rose Cecil, who is also one of the directors, who is English, and she's come out on many, many visits, and is one of the coolest ladies ever.
Yeah.
And then the volunteers are British, and we've got a Welsh contingent, a Scottish contingent, East England, London, Devon contingent, and in our workshops we have the Scottish flag up, the Welsh flag up, and now we have the Devon flag up.
Wow.
Which is
and
where I'm from.
my own sister near Wolverhampton,
Yes.
she runs an NGO with her women friends called Sumna Kvitka, the sad flower, and they help widows and orphans.
Oh, amazing.
And they send a lot of stuff over with very strong British support.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, any final thoughts? We have to conclude. Time is running out. General impressions, messages to our viewers, perhaps not only in Britain, in the States or Canada, Europe generally.
I think coming back time and again and meeting a lot of the same people, I can see an absolute tiredness coming up in the young guys on the front line. They are reaching exhaustion point, but they are amazingly resilient, and I am absolutely sure that Ukraine is going to win.
Adrian Simpson, a British colleague in arms, if not literally, but in human terms, in humanitarian terms. We thank you for what you do, and thank you for being our guest here at Kyiv Post. Bogdan Nahailo, Chief Editor, signing off. Thank you for watching us.